Good afternoon. This is Bob Irwin. You know me from Fired Up with Bob Irwin. Today we have a special report on significant court case involving the Second Amendment and statutory laws that have had and will have national importance. We are living in an unprecedented time. We are in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, as you all know. Yet our gun stores remain open in Nevada and several states by the statutes such as NRS 414 and constitutional provisions. Yet our courts throughout the nation are bogged down. They're adapting to the ramification of the coronavirus by social distancing, limited access, online hearings, and of course, using masks and gloves actually in court. Additionally, the courts are issuing remarkable decisions in the midst of the COVID-19. Perhaps we would never have come about. So today we are presenting those court cases for analysis and commentary. With me is Nevada and California attorney Donald J. Green. What's going on, Don?
Okay. Bob, last Thursday, Judge Roger Benitez, a federal judge in the United States District Court for the Southern District of California in San Diego, issued a ruling in the ammunition prohibition and background check component in California's laws. Now, please remember that about 18 months ago, Judge Benitez, by coincidence, was the same judge who declared that California's ban on magazines having the capacity to hold more than 10 rounds was unconstitutional. That case was supposed to be heard by the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit this month. But of course, in the midst of this COVID-19 crisis, that was changed. But last Thursday, another case had been presented and was randomly assigned to Judge Benitez. And I hope it's just random because some people might challenge it. In the case of Rhode, R-H-O-D-E, versus Xavier Becerra, who is the Attorney General of the state of California. This was the case which challenged the background checks for ammunition in California. And in a brilliant, well-reasoned decision, 120-page decision, Judge Benitez found that the California scheme on background checks for ammunition was unconstitutional. May we have slide 1? In the decision, Judge Benitez wrote in the opening paragraphs, quote, "The experiment has been tried. The casualties have been counted. California's new ammunition background check law misfires, and the Second Amendment rights of California citizens have been gravely injured. In this action, plaintiffs seek a preliminary injunction enjoining California's onerous and convoluted new laws requiring ammunition purchase background checks and implementing ammunition and anti-importation laws. For the reasons that follow, the motion for preliminary injunction is granted." Now, can we have slide 1B, please? On page 118 of his decision, Judge Benitez wrote, quote, "California has tried its unprecedented experiment. The casualties suffered by law-abiding citizens have been counted. Presently, California and many other states sit in isolation under pandemic-inspired stay-at-home orders. Schools, parks, beaches, and countless non-essential businesses are closed. Courts are limping while police make arrests for only the more serious crimes. Keeping vigilant is necessary in good times and in bad, and maintaining the Second Amendment rights are especially important in times like these. For if we let these rights lapse in good times, they might never be recovered in time to resist the next experiment or appearance of criminals, terrorists, and tyrants." May we have the next slide, slide 1C. Now, this is the Coronado Hotel in San Diego, and the reason we put this up is to give you some perspective. This is mild-mannered, California, the week before the COVID-19 crisis and stay-at-home orders. You see some people there on the beach. But we wanted to point out that this is from San Diego. And with California being so anti-gun, we have one man, we have one United States district judge appointed by President Bush who has the courage and the guts and the intellect to tell the entire state of California, all of its government officials, all of its law enforcement officials, the Attorney General, and everyone else having any authority to enforce the background check law for ammunition. He's telling him, you can't do it. You are stopped. This is the only decision in the United States of which I'm aware is like this. And this is so recent. This is last Thursday. May we have the next slide? Slide 3, please. Okay. This is from the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. And this was issued on April 24th, 2020 at about 9:45 at night, last Friday night. Because on Friday, the Attorney General for the state of California filed an emergency request to hold off on the implementation of Judge Benitez's order prohibiting background checks for ammunition. And in one page, it's about 4 lines, the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, the largest circuit in the United States, Arizona, Nevada, California, Idaho, Washington, Hawaii, Oregon, Guam, and Nevada, the largest. They've got more judges than anyone else. 2 judges, 2 circuit judges appointed by the presidents, not Trump, stated, quote, "The court has received appellant's emergency motion for stay. The request for an immediate administrative stay is granted. The district court's April 23, 2020 preliminary injunction is temporarily stayed pending further court order. The court will address the emergency stay motion by separate order. Hasn't come out yet." End quote. May we have the next slide? The United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit sits in San Francisco. Occasionally, in the years past, they used to go to Pasadena, and sometimes they'd hold court in various states within the Ninth Circuit. They're not doing it now, of course, because of COVID-19. But we presented this picture of the Golden Gate Bridge to show you the contrast between Southern California and San Diego, where Judge Benitez sits, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, which sits in very liberal, anti-gun San Francisco, which isn't that the district from which Nancy Pelosi is? And isn't that Dianne Feinstein?
Yes,
of course, Kamala
yes.
Harris are the senators from California. But the point here is that we have these significant decisions. Now, what does Judge Benitez's decision mean for people in Nevada? Well, fortunately, we do not have this same problem. And there's good news coming out of this, even though some people say, well, his order has been, that Judge Benitez's order has been stayed. But here's the good news about it. The good news is that while the order has been stayed, in Nevada, we don't have the problem. We don't have a problem with the importation of ammunition. You can order off of Gunbroker and Ammo Land and Bud's Gun Shop and some other places and try to order ammunition. It's perfectly legal. And if there were gun shows, you could get as much as you can carry. We don't have these provisions. So California's, the stay of Judge Benitez's order is only based on California's law. Now, will Nevada judges, federal judges, try to bring this up? If, let's say, the state of Nevada tries to halt gun sales, they can try, but it's not going to work. Why? Because we have a specific Nevada statute, and we've talked about that in an earlier emergency broadcast just a few weeks ago. And we have NRS 414.151, which says that the governor of this state, in exercising his emergency powers, is prohibited from taking any action against the ownership, possession, sale of any firearms, ammunition, or components. May we have the next slide, please? Now, yesterday, the United States Supreme Court issued yet another, it's not a groundbreaking decision, it's a procedural decision, and even the NRA has said, oh, it's a blow to gun rights. It is not. And MSNBC, CNN incorrectly pointed out that this decision was authored by members of the Supreme Court. It is not. It's called a per curiam decision. And this decision is like one page. And it says that in the New York Rifle and Pistol Association, which challenged New York's laws to prohibit the types of transportation of firearms into cities and across the state. Originally, they were seeking an injunction to prevent that from being enforced. It went up to the Supreme Court once they lost. And the Supreme Court issued its ruling yesterday, not on the merits, but on a time-honored tradition and rules of the United States Supreme Court on the grounds of what's known as mootness. Mootness means, well, there's nothing for us to decide anymore because New York amended its laws in the face of this, knowing that they were going to have to face this before the Supreme Court, and the law itself now doesn't require this onerous anti-transportation of firearms laws. So the Supreme Court said, well, there's nothing for us to decide. It's moot. It's no longer effective. And they sent it back to the lower courts for resolution. Justice Alito, if we can have that slide, please, coming up. That's slide 3. No, the one before, slide. Okay, there we go. Justice Alito took the opportunity to point out that that the U.S. Supreme Court should have decided on the merits, but the United States Supreme Court did not decide on the merits. So the National Rifle Association analysis of this case is correct. Although it looks like a Second Amendment case, it feels like a Second Amendment case, it smells like a Second Amendment case, it is not a Second Amendment case. It will go down in the books, and they're going to be teaching this in law schools, not as a Second Amendment, but as a procedural point made by the U.S. Supreme Court that we can only decide cases and controversies. Because New York amended its law, there is no longer any case, there's no longer any controversy. And Bob, can you tell us a little bit about what you see in the transportation? Are there any transportation issues in Nevada when we have firearms?
No, they're really not. You're allowed, we are a pretty good state. We've got, some of the gun shops are making people wait in line and practice social distancing and so on. But in reality, interesting, I had a call from a youngster the other day that wanted to, when I asked me some question, and we got involved on the phone in him talking to me about, he was from New Jersey, and he wanted to buy another gun, and he went to a gun shop, and they said they filled out the form, and they did the electronic background check, and the guy said, okay, when do I have to come back to get the gun? And the clerk at the store said, here's your gun. Welcome to America.
Yes. And so what have you heard from your law enforcement sources concerning what is happening with the background checks being bogged down in Nevada, and what the sheriff might be trying to help people with the concealed weapon permits?
Well, the sheriff has taken the position that if your permit is expired or about to expire, they've added time for them to get the permit done because they're short on clerks and this and that. The fingerprint area is closed at the moment. So they just basically expanded. If your permit has expired, it hasn't expired. They've basically added time to it. It's a little more complicated than that, but your permit is still good. And they're adding until they get caught up. As we know, Fingerprint Bureau is closed now. You can't get prints. That's the same rule applies to other people who need work cards and so forth and can't renew. The sheriff is being very helpful with that, with their policies. And it's not your fault if your work permit expires or your permit expires. So he just simply extended it. That doesn't include doing criminal acts while you have your gun, but your permit is valid and has all the rights that are issued initially. They're still there.
Okay. Now, today's broadcast is like on the two cases before the U.S. Supreme Court, which we want to show why the people of the state of Nevada don't really have anything to worry about. What have you heard about any shortages of ammunition and where people can get ammo?
the stores in general have ammo available, and we're not under that restriction. You're correct, and you can order it online and have it shipped to your house. There's a number of vendors doing that. Gunbroker has lots of it in stock, or their vendors do. And we're about to have another gun show, I believe, hopefully in June. And there should be ammunition available there if nothing changes, because we're simply not restricting ammunition purchase. Things are great in Nevada at this moment.
And so our gun stores are open in Nevada. Gun stores are open in many states as essential businesses, and that is by virtue of the statute. And Sheriff Lombardo making that commentary just a few weeks ago, and you had sent me the YouTube briefing on that, where he said that based on 414, and that ended it. That was the end of the conversation. One question from a news reporter. He said the gun stores are open pursuant to 414. Next question. Yep. So, have you heard of any closures of any gun stores other than the fact that they're out of stock?
I've seen some of them are closed. I visited a couple of stores that were not open, and they were making appointments only to buy guns or buy ammunition. The ones that I went to were open, and there are some that are closing. I don't know why. They weren't making any money, and this is a good excuse. I don't know. The gun store where I used to be the boss is open. They're using social distancing. They have eliminated their classes for concealed weapons, yes, including the renewal classes. Again, and if your permit comes up for renewal, it's okay. But the range use is severely limited. But that's simply because of other issues, that they have to do the social distancing and wear masks and so forth, and that's really difficult on the range to go through that system. But they are, for all practical purposes, they are open and operating as normal.
Okay. Bob, I saw a memorandum issued by Sheriff Lombardo. It was right at the end of March, beginning of April, said that that concealed weapons classes could go forward, providing that they practice social distancing. And why do you think that the sheriff, when they originally canceled concealed weapon classes, why do you think the sheriff reversed that in a memorandum, saying that they could now go through concealed weapons classes?
Joe and I have been friends for a lot of years, and that is not to say I agree with everything that he does, but he's in a horrible position with this type of decision. And he is a believer in the right to keep and bear arms. And he doesn't feel, in my opinion, he does not feel that with the crime rate has gone up. Our burglaries now are turning into home invasions because everybody's home. We were just a few days ago, a neighbor of ours, their ring went off and alerted my ring system that there was a prowler in his backyard, directly over the fence from where I was. The crime rate is up, domestic violence is up. The sheriff does not feel he has any wherewithal to restrict people from possession of firearms or getting firearms or shooting their guns for practice during this time. They're simply in more danger than they were before. The criminals are more active. They're not getting the relief from the government. Nobody's sending criminals a check. If you write the Social Security and say, it's hard for me to do my job, therefore I want $1,000, they don't get a check. Crime rate is up, domestic violence is up, burglaries, as I said, are turning into home invasions. We have all sorts of crime. Auto thefts are up. Street crime is up dramatically. Robberies of 7-Elevens, robberies of banks. The sheriff has got his hands full with the crime that's being committed and does not intend to prevent people from having firearms.
And are you getting more calls from people, because people trust you after all these years, not for legal advice, but for practical advice? Are you getting calls from first-time gun owners who have been referred to you, and they say, you might want to call Bob because he'll know about firearms and some self-defense issues, and he may know about some gun stores?
Well, I have had a few of those, and I'm sending them generally to Battlefield Vegas, where they sell my books and things. But all the major gun shops are open, and if you've got somebody behind the counter that is knowledgeable, a lot of them have curtailed their business simply for self-preservation. They're too afraid of customers walking in, not wearing face masks and so forth. We had a lot of people that are avoiding the simple distancing, and they don't want to have the guy set his gun on the counter when he's been fiddling with it and then pick it up and so forth. They're practicing social distancing, and some of them are most guys that own gun shops are in their 60s and 70s, and we're all targets for this. So we're being a little more careful than normally, but those are personal decisions, not based on gun laws that the sheriff or anybody else is enforcing in Nevada.
In your closing remarks, can you address whether the future is now on how we're going to be operating with gun stores and ammunition sales?
Yeah, I believe all of this will come back to relative normal. I've seen a couple of doctors that are on TV a lot saying, we'll probably never shake hands again as a social custom anymore. And, we'll go back to the salute, which was to raise the visor on your helmet to show the guy who you were and that, he didn't mean combat. I suspect there will be social distancing that will take quite a while to come back into normal course. It's going to take the public a long time to get used to what they're talking about as being the new normal. I think this will be with us for a while. The youngsters are the first ones that are going to quit doing that, and us old vulnerable guys with secondary health problems, who over 60 doesn't have a secondary health problem? Name one. We all do. So we're all going to be more careful. I was going to mention it has caused my wife and I we're at home together now, we're the same age, and it has given her opportunity to go over in great detail all of the boneheaded things that I've done for the last 7 or 8 years. And that part hasn't been fun. But in reality, I think it's a good thing. It makes us all healthier and safer. I would think we will come out of this 100%. I believe the economy will come back 1,000%. The president, I think, is doing a wonderful job in keeping the economy going. And hopefully, everybody out there will vote for the R's on their ballot so we don't lose all our guns.
So you believe that these decisions we talked about today, even though the Supreme Court ruled as mootness, that has sent it back down without commentary, and the Judge Benitez decision, although it's been stayed, you think these are reactions to this new COVID-19 pandemic?
They are, in a lot of ways. We can't help but react to those. And it's going to be with us, I said, for a long time. But I think it'll be all right in the end.
Thank you.
I have great confidence in the country coming back.
May we have the last slide, please? Slide 7. In Nevada, we enjoy the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. In Nevada, we can transfer without a background check guns to our eligible children, our mothers and fathers, our brothers and sisters, and our spouses, regardless of COVID-19. So we want to leave our listeners, especially in Nevada, with that we are a blessed state and that we have a governor who's taken action. And we sent a letter after I spoke with Bob, we sent an email to the governor advising him in March that he could not close the gun stores because there's a specific statutory provision. So I think all the people in Nevada, all the pundits, all the people who start claiming about the Second Amendment being violated, you need to forget about the Second Amendment right now. And you need to focus on Nevada and our laws, because this state was born in the midst of battle. This state was born on October 31st, 1864, and we're named the Silver State because Lincoln needed to maintain a buffer and to have silver to pay for supplies and pay the troops. Otherwise, Nevada could very well have been on the side of the Confederacy. So we have to realize that being battle-born, and we've suffered a lot. We suffered in the October shootings at Mandalay Bay, and we suffered through this pandemic. And 80,000 people were out of work overnight. It took a lot of guts for the governor to do that. But we're going to come back. But fortunately, we're presenting these issues to the people in the state of Nevada and all of our listeners. And we hope that people in the state of California will eventually amend the Constitution and provide in the California Constitution a provision which guarantees the right to bear arms. Because right now, there is no such provision. And that's why Judge Benitez focused in his decision to state that law-abiding citizens are imbued with the unalienable right to keep and bear arms, along with the ammunition to make those firearms work. So in closing, we'd ask the people of the state of Nevada to continue to observe all the practices for social distancing and to not listen to the people on MSNBC. And when they read these decisions of the courts, to seek competent legal advice, or call Bob and I. And Bob will refer you to me. And we'd like to thank you for listening to this special broadcast. And thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you for listening. I'll see you back on Fired Up on Thursday.